Welcome to Mom Tackles the Internet. My name is Chris Mercer. Everybody just calls me Mercer. You should as well. And this is my mom, Linda. Say hi, Mom.
Hi.
All right. Well said. So in what we're doing, the whole point of this channel is to help people who do not have skills on the internet to try to get some basic skills on the internet so that they can start to exchange the value that they have with the rest of the world. In other words, make a little bit of extra money on the side using the internet, right? And then I think a lot of people just get held back because they are confused by all the different bells and whistles that the internet has. And so that's what this channel is all about. And we're going to do this with Mom, who has bravely volunteered to be our guinea pig. And that's the whole point of it, right? Is to take these skills, because you've got skills from your past. You've been a business owner in the past. You've been bookkeeping skills. You've got management skills. You've got that ability to start new things, right? There's a lot of things that you can do. But if you don't have the skills on the internet, nobody's really going to know about it. So that's the whole point of this is. And in last week's episode, we talked about how to actually think about what a browser is and the different productivity apps and, the difference between Google and Google Chrome and Microsoft and Apple and all this fun stuff. I thought this week we could just talk about browsers and really kind of go into that, because browsers really are the thing that you're going to be using primarily. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So we are going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screens here, and we're going to start with a look into what is just the basic parts of a browser. So at this point, you should be able to see my screen. Yes?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So the basic parts of a browser. So this is just kind of like an image of a browser. I took a little snapshot. And so what you typically have, and I'm just going to kind of point these out as like little blocks up here. So I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit, give us a tiny bit of room, because what's on the browser itself really doesn't matter that much. It's more just the parts in this case. So first is you have here these little nav items, right? So this is like navigation stuff. And this is where, you do and you probably already used to doing this, where you do the back button and the forward button and then the refresh, right? Where things that just sort of get blocked out or glitch or whatever, you can just hit the refresh button and then things refresh. The next part of this, and we'll get into more of a deep dive of this stuff a little bit later on, is this part here, right, which is in this little window. And this is where the URL goes. And again, we'll talk more about what that is. But long story short, actually, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I'm gonna call this the tab, because that's really what this is kind of pointing to. So this is the tab where it currently says Google on it in little tiny letters. But it's basically just identifying where you are, right? And you can have multiple tabs open in your browser. And we will show this in a live demo in just a moment as well. So you've got your browser tab. Then, let me just move this out of the way. We will have the URL. I'm gonna put this down here. So the URL, the way to think about the URL, let me see if I can get this to do what I want it to do right there. So the URL is where you type in the web address. Think about this like a mailing address, but it's on the internet. So instead of, coming to my house, you would type in the my physical house address in your GPS, and then you sort of follow the GPS to get there. Same exact thing. This is just saying, okay, here's where I want to go on the internet. Take me there and show me what's there. And then you have this whole gigantic window, which I'll just make one of these again. I'm just going to blow this up a little bit. So this whole area here is just what they call the browser window, right? So the window is literally that. It's just a peek through into that other side, right? So in this case, the browser is saying, go to Google. You've told to go to Google. And the window that's showing is, of course, let's blank this out, is Google, right? So we can see that it's Google behind there. So that's the window that you're seeing. So you're not doing, it's nothing on your computer. It's on somebody else's computer on what they call the web or the cloud. But basically, we talked about that last week too, where I talked about, this information is stored on somebody else's computer somewhere. In this case, obviously Google's. But this is it. This is the window. And then the window has different stuff in it, 100% based upon whatever they've built on the other side. So none of these really matter. It's just whatever's in the window is in the window. Make sense so far?
Yep.
Okay. Now, the other part of a browser that is browser specific is all of this stuff right in here. I'll put a little arrow down to this. And it's really, actually, I want to do it here so you can see a little easier. So it's really about these, what they call extensions. So let me pull this back. These are all here. If I can get this to quite go up. It's not going to cooperate, but you get the idea. So these are browser extensions. And again, we'll show you in a real one in just a second. So the extensions, which are these little doohickeys that are up here, you see there's a bunch of them that I have installed.
Yeah.
You add those to the browser to enhance functionality of the browser. So it's a way for the browser to be better, to do cool things. So if my browser looks a little like, if my Google looks a little different than your Google, it might be because I have an extension that's changing that for some reason that I found useful. It does not mean you have to do that. And again, I'll show you just an example of an extension in just a second, but there will be some extensions that you will add to your browser. Now we're going to use Chrome from here on out because that's kind of what you're going to be working with primarily, but all browsers have the ability to add extensions. So, which clearly I got to learn how to spell a little bit better. So extensions. All right. So any questions on kind of the main parts and pieces?
Just one.
Mm-hmm.
Up in the URL, you don't always have to put just an address, correct?
As opposed to what?
Like sometimes I'll just type in what I'm looking for.
Okay, good question. So I'm going to switch over to our real one here. So we're going to go ahead and pull this up. And give me just a moment. Let's switch our screens here. Okay. So here we actually have that exact, I just took, what used to be a picture is now the actual thing, right? So here's a little browser window. You should be seeing that. Okay.
Yes.
So what we're going to do is, to your point, you're saying, okay, do I have to type in, google.com, right? And I'll show you an example of what you're talking about. So if I wanted to go to my website, right, my company's website, which is measurementmarketing.io, I could start to type it in. You see how it automatically started to fill it in?
Yes.
And then it also has other things that it thinks might be useful. And this is the browser doing this. This is Chrome doing this in this case, because I use Chrome. So the browser is going, oh, well, you've been to these other pages before. So I'm going to kind of auto suggest that you go back to those pages, right? These are the pages it knows I've gone to a lot. So it's going to suggest these pages. And even though I literally just typed in the word measure, the rest of this in blue was auto suggested. So a browser will auto suggest because it's going to try to guess, where you want to go, right? And these are kind of the top guesses, right? So that's how that's worked. And so when you're coming in, like I just clicked out of it and it automatically shows the entire site. The reason I'm not on that site right now is because I didn't hit enter. I didn't tell the browser, yes, go here, right? It just started typing it in. So if I, did what you wanted to do, like let's say I go into, measurementmarketing.io and I can get arrows, right, to go navigate through if I want to see the pages, right? See how I'm doing that? So arrows up and down. So I can go in there and then I can hit enter. Now you see how it's spinning up top?
Yes.
Little spinning feature. This is where the browser is telling you, I'm going to that other computer you told me to go to, but it is going to a specific place on the internet. So in this case, this domain, right? And we'll get into what this is a little bit the URL, but this a little bit later, but this URL here is saying go to this particular server with this particular address, just like a home, right? Saying go to this mailing address, but on the internet. So go here, go, and then show me what's there, right? In the window, in the browser window. And in my browser window, I don't have just one thing like Google has, I can scroll down and this is where the browser window is completely different than what some other site might have, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the other thing that Chrome will do, actually all browsers will do this, is you can say something like, what is a browser, right? So we could just do that. And you can start typing stuff in. Now, when you see that, what's happening is it's automatically, see that little G right there? This little icon? So what do you think that stands for?
Google.
Right. So it's automatically going to go to Google and search for what is a browser. So what's happening is even though I'm not typing in a specific like google.com and then I type in the search thing that I'm looking for, it's kind of like a shortcut. This browser, Chrome browser, and it didn't do this in the beginning. Like browsers didn't do this at all. But they added this feature where they basically said, well, if you just type in anything that's not a specific URL, we will assume you are looking for that on a search engine, right? We assume that you're going to quote unquote Google that. And so in this case, it's literally going to go to Google and then hit, what is a browser? So when I hit enter, that's when it goes to the specific google.com, right? And then if you'll notice over here, and we'll get into parts and pieces a little bit, but if you'll notice over here, see this just says, what is a browser?
Yes.
That's how it knew to put what is a browser in here and search for it. And then it displayed all this different browser stuff. So that's how that worked. So, so this, for me to get this window, I have to type this in exactly like this.
Wow.
Right? So this is the very specific address that comes through, and then it'll display this very specific thing.
Okay.
Okay. So that's sort of the basics of the different parts of a browser, and sort of all you really need to know about how a browser works in terms of usefulness, right? There's obviously a lot more stuff that browsers can do, and they can get very technical and everything else, but honestly, none of that matters, because that's not something you're going to do, right? You don't have to know how a cake turns from this liquid mass and then turns into an actual cake in the oven. You don't actually have to know the chemical reasons behind that to bake a cake, right?
No.
And you don't need to know how a browser works in this incredible level of technical detail for the same reason. You don't need to know how the sausage is made. You just need to know the sausage. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay. So at this point, we've got the basics down, but let's talk more about this stuff up here, because this confuses people. And I know that you and I have had conversations about this in the past as well. So the idea of the URL. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to type in mine again. So this is measurementmarketing.io. This is my company. So here, what it shows me, you see that little lock icon?
Yes.
That's up here. This is really important on the internet. So what this means is that everything here on the site is safe to browse. Now, it does not mean, and I'm gonna change one quick thing here to kind of show you the difference. It does not mean that it's actually, I take that back. Mine's not going to do that, because I have it automatically forwarded to the locked version. But the locked version is what you want, especially when you're buying stuff online, especially that. So if you ever go anywhere and you do not see this, what this basically means is it's all being what they call encrypted, which is just a fancy way of saying they're scrambling the information, and it's only between you and that other person's computer on the other side. Those are the only two people that know what's going on. You watching, interacting with their computer, because that's what we're doing here. I am literally interacting with another computer on the other side of this window, right? That's what I'm doing. And so this lock means that the connection has been, protected from others getting in there and pulling stuff out. Right. So if I was filling out a cart where I was buying something online and I did not see this, immediately I stop. And the reason for that is because that connection between the cart system, and the cart is the thing where you're putting in your payment details, right? Like your credit card or whatever else. That cart system, if it does not have this, and rarely you will see, you always check for this, because rarely what will happen is it's a technical thing you have to set up, but sometimes they mess it up and it won't show the lock. Sometimes it'll be a hacker site, right? Or some email link you clicked on and you thought it was a bank account, but it turns out it's not. And so you'll see things like that. So you always look for the lock. Number one, it's not the only thing you look for, but it's things you look for when you're what they call browsing, safely, right? Safe browsing. So here, when you're putting in your credit card details, you always got to make sure a lock's there. If the lock is not there, and it's, as far as you know, a legitimate site, email their customer support and say, hey, or just give them a call and then pay for it that way.
That is really good to know. I never, ever knew that.
Yeah, do not put on the internet, because otherwise that means somebody could, doesn't mean they would, or did, but that somebody could grab your credit card details, right? So one very important thing, always make sure that there's a lock. Again, if you're looking at a regular post, like now again, my site, we made all the pages go to a locked version, because I that's just the way that most websites should be doing it nowadays. But just because a site doesn't do that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that you don't give it credit card details, but you can look at the blog and you can, watch videos, and whatever else the site does is fine. Just don't give information to the site. Like, don't sign up for forms or specifically payment details. Really, you can do names and emails probably, but credit card details do not do, because assume somebody else could get those at that point because it's not encrypted. So very important thing there. So the reason that that's happening is because of this thing. And all I did here, I'm going to X out of this. So here it just shows measurementmarketing.io, right? When I click into this browser window, when I click into this little piece of it here, right, where the URL bar goes, this little address bar, that's what they call this. Then I see the complete thing that's in front of it, right? So I see this HTTPS, whereas if I click off on the side, you see how it goes away? So the browser does this just to, give you a clean look. That's all they're doing, right? But in reality, what's there is this. I just double clicked on it to show the entire thing. And this is what causes it to be secure. So this identifies it as secure or not. So if it has the S, it's going to be secure and it should show the lock. If it's not secure, it'll say HTTP like this.
Okay.
And then it won't be secure, right?
Okay.
Doesn't mean HTTP pages are bad. It just means you do not give them credit card details ever,
Okay.
no matter what, right?
Okay.
You can still use those pages that are insecure because some sites are like that. But you never give them credit card details ever, no matter what. Okay. So here I'm on my site. Let me get back out of this here. So you can see I'm on my site. This is what they would call the home page. So the home page is when you go to the whatever the domain is, right? So this is called the domain. So measurement.marketing.io is the domain. So I'm going to my domain, and the first thing it's going to load up is the default page for that domain, which, because this happens to be my company, I have decided is this page, right? I can make it any page I want. And we'll talk more about this when you build a website, but I have made my page that I want you to see as the default page, this one, right? So you can see about our company and learn about what we do and take next steps and whatever else. That's what I have chosen to do with on my side, where I actually have the computer that these files are stored on, right? Because remember, all you're doing is looking at the, looking through the window at what I built. So I am controlling what is that first page, what they call the home page. And that home page is, you always know you go to the home page when you go to the domain. Just type in the main domain, that'll go to the home page. Make sense so far?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So the other thing that you can see, and I'm going to go into our blog here, is the different parts of a website. So the homepage is the first part, and the homepage is really just, hey, I've decided this is the first page I want you to see. It's the default page that when the browser loads the main domain, it shows that. That was the homepage. But then you see in here, when I clicked into it, how you've got this stuff showing up, right? So I just clicked on blog. So a blog is a part of our site. So we have the homepage, which is a part of the site. And then we have the blog, which is also part of the exact same site. And you can see how it's organized here is a little bit different, because you see the homepage is just this when it was by itself. Here, blog is on this page. So I see how /blog. So, and then sometimes you'll see parameters. For the most part, again, these are called parameters, by the way. These little things that they always start with a question mark and then things here. They're typically just identification things, and they tell the computer kind of what it needs to know to get you the right thing. That's all it is for. You typically do not have to worry about this at all in the beginning. So I wouldn't worry about anything that starts with a question mark, and they always start with a question mark. And then and there could be a bunch of different stuff, right? And you'll see more examples of that as we go through this. But those are, again, just they're called parameters. Like ref in this case is one of the parameters. It's the only parameter, but it doesn't really matter what is there for your purposes. You really don't care. But you do need to understand a structure, right, of how things are structured on the internet. So I have my home page, which is the default page. Then I have my blog, right? And then I've stored the blog under measurementmarketing.io/blog. So you start to get a structure of how the website is built. Then if I go into a specific post in that blog, see how it's continuing that same structure? So it's blog, only now it's /tips to make your website easier, because I named this blog post, because you have posts underneath the blog. I've named this blog post tips to make your website easier to measure. And that's what brought that up. And so that's how this whole structure, you notice no parameters. Again, doesn't really matter. I'm just pointing out there are no parameters on this one, or they would show here. So I can go through. Now, if I wanted to go to the members login, right? So we've got a membership that people can enter to sign up for. But here is the login page, right? So I have a membership site. So I need a place for my members to log in. So that's what that is for, right? If I go back, I'm going to hit that navigation window. I can go into products, right? So here's one of our products. So if I go in, this is the membership to buy, right? If somebody wanted to buy the membership. So here it's under LP/membership/Measurement Marketing Academy. This is just how I structured it. That means nothing to you. It doesn't need to mean anything to you. All that means is if I wanted to come directly back to this page, I would have to type in this stuff, right? So if I'm just going to copy this out, right click and copy. If I go to a new browser tab and I right click and paste that in, this, right? Think about like a mailing address, right? Like a physical address. This is the address to go to this specific page on the internet. So I can copy that, paste it. Now I'm going to end up at the exact same spot. I don't have to go to my homepage and then navigate through to get to where I want to go. I just copied out the space that I wanted to go to and said, cool, there it is. Also notice that I didn't have to copy all the parameters. Sometimes you don't have to. So that's there. So this is just kind of a basics. Other things, I've got other products and services and, other things that people can sign up for, but that's just how my site is organized. Right now, let's pick a site that you like, and I'm going to have you share screens, and we're going to explore it so that you can get some experience with this. So you're going to share your screen.
And I'm going to go down to the bottom where it says share screen.
Yep.
And post, where do I put it on?
And now you're going to just go to it's going to say share screen on your computer. You just have the one place to share. So just bring up where it says share desktop. I believe it'll say something like that.
Mine doesn't say that.
Just pick something and share it.
Okay.
It won't be that. Yeah, we'll work out the details later. And this is an important step. Sometimes you just try things and you see what works. There we go. That seemed to work just fine. So now I am seeing Zoom, right? I am seeing your Zoom window. So now tell me, what is the domain name? If you're just looking in the URL right now without touching anything else or typing anything in, what is the domain name of this site that we're looking at right now? Based on what we've learned.
Zoom. Zoom.us
is the domain name.
Right.
Exactly.
Zoom. Just
what is
Zoom.
it?
Just Zoom is the domain.
That's the company name. Zoom is the company name. What is the domain name?
So it's zoom.us.
Correct. What's my domain name?
Marketing, measurement marketing.
Nope.
.io.
It's .io, right? Because it's the full thing, right? It's the
okay. So you have to put the dot part in there.
The dot part is the domain name, right? Otherwise, it's just a company name. So, like in our case, our company name is measurementmarketing.io, but the domain name is measurementmarketing.io. What's Google's domain name?
Google.com. Right. My next question.
Yep.
Why is it that there is some that are .com, some that are .us, some that are .io?
So that's something called the top level domain that is there, and it's just a different way to identify it. So there's just different versions of it. It's a way, because sometimes Zoom, if you just had zoom.com and there was no other way to get Zoom, there's only so many words in the world, right? So you need other extensions. So .com, .net, they do it by .country, .io, and there's I think thousands at this point of different ones that are coming out, and more all the time. So just know that there's
sort of like phone numbers,
kind of like phone numbers with different area codes.
Right.
So you can have the same phone number, 2 different area codes, same thing. That's a really good way to think about it. It's kind of like an area code. All right. So now let's go ahead and go to any site that you typically go to.
Okay.
And show me kind of how you're using this to get there.
I'm trying to think of something that I like to look at. How's that?
Okay. So what did you just do?
I just put in a word.
Right. So, okay, let's talk about this real quick, and then we'll come back to what we asked and what happened. So see where it says Google wants to know your location. So you will see this. There's a lock, right, which is good. So it's got the lock icon. See that?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing is it's saying, hey, they want to know your location because they want to be able to send you, like if you're looking for T stores near me, you can type in T stores near me, and Google knows what near me means, right? Because it would know.
Okay, so now they know my location.
They don't, because you haven't given them permission. But if you want them to be able to do stuff like that, where it says, hey, I want to see, gas stations near me or whatever, they need to know your location to be able to answer that question. So that's what this is for. So in a lot, people get weirded out by the whole privacy thing right now with, I want to keep my private details. And you definitely want to keep your private information private, but sometimes it breaks the internet, or Google won't work as well for you as it will work for somebody else if you don't allow this stuff. So in this case, I would say Google wanting to know your location probably is okay. I would hit allow on that one.
Okay.
If you go to another site that's like, we want to know your location, and that is not at all useful information for them, then you can block it.
Okay. So that's what's going to be my question is, do I have to do that each time?
No, because the website itself, which is google.com, right, is wanting to know your location. Once you allow it, then it's done. It doesn't ask again.
Okay, but then if I don't want them to know,
you can go back and you can adjust the privacy settings in Google Chrome if you ever wanted to. Chances are highly unlikely you're going to want to do that. But if you accidentally click allow on a site that you find is malicious or something, you could go back and fix it. But it's, again, probably not something you have to worry about. So in this case, let's just click allow and then get this out of the way, because it will make Google better more useful search engine for you. Okay, now the directions were, I want you to go to a website that you like visiting. And what did you do?
I just put in teas.
Right.
So I didn't put in a website.
You didn't put in a website, right? You just Googled for teas.
Right.
So
which
if
is
I
generally
said,
what I do.
Right. And that's nothing wrong with that, right? Because a lot of times you're looking for information. But let's
Right.
say there was a website that you knew you wanted to go to.
Okay.
Like, what's a website that you use a lot that you like?
Teatime.com.
Okay, let's do that. Go to that website.
So I would do it up here.
Yes. And it's because you know the address. You would do teatime.com. Exactly right.
And that's what,
Now,
why is it
this
saying
says
that?
it cannot be reached because it's saying it's probably not the right web address. That's basically where it's like if you thought you were going to my house and you end up at a vacant lot of land, there was nothing there. That's kind of what this is. So it's good that this happened because this sometimes will, right? You'll type something in wrong or you think you got the right address, but clearly you don't. So what would you do now? Because you don't have the right address is what this is telling you. So how would you find it?
Well, what I would do is this. Oops.
Now, why did it just do that? Why did it not go to teatimemagazine.com?
I guess I didn't have the right address.
It's because you typed in T space timemagazine.com.
Yeah, I see I didn't put another space.
So the spaces, you're telling the browser, go Google this thing. Go look up. You're not giving it a specific address. And if it doesn't get a specific address of where to go, it will make the assumption that you're Googling for it instead. And so it brings up Google. And it says, you were obviously looking for stuff about this because you didn't tell me where to go. So I just assume you're looking for something. And so here's some stuff, right? And so it shows you all these things.
Okay.
So how would you get now? Because I assume you're trying to get the teatimemagazine.com.
Right.
Okay. How would you go to teatimemagazine.com without Googling for it first? And how do we know that it's teatimemagazine.com is the actual address?
I'm guessing it.
But you don't have to if you look at your screen. You see?
Up at the top.
Nope. But if you go down, so let's go
down. Right here.
You see those are URLs. So there's subscribe.teatimemagazine.com/teatime/magazine, which will be an ad to get a subscription.
But I would go to this one.
That one is what part of that site will load up when you click on that?
The magazine.
What part of the site will load up?
What you mean, the address?
Of the site, I'll give you the multiple choice. Parts of the site include blog, product pages, cart pages, home page. What part of the site would load up when you click on this based on that URL?
The magazine. Probably the front page.
So I'm going to go again. It's multiple choice. Magazine is not an option.
Okay.
So I'll tell you that. It's not magazine. So multiple choice. Is it going to be the blog? Is it going to be the cart to get a subscription? Is it going to be the homepage?
It's going to be their homepage.
It's going to be their homepage. That's exactly right. How do you know it's going to be their homepage?
For me, it tells me that because of all the things underneath it. Recipes, contact us, shop, store.
Nope. So you want to think back. When I'm asking these questions, it's because of something that we've learned in this episode.
Because of the .com.
Because you don't see anything else. See how above in that ad, it says get.time.com/timemagazine/subscription. You don't see /subscription here. You don't see /ads. You don't see /anything. You just see timemagazine.com or teatimemagazine.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing teatimemagazine.com, you know it's the homepage because there's nothing else after it. If there's something else after it, like for example, go below. What does that one show?
It says category recipes. So I would be going to that if I want recipes.
That's the part of the site that will be, in this case, the recipe archives. Exactly right.
Okay, so does every
the
website...
main domain is the homepage, and then anything else is just the different parts of the site.
Okay, so whenever a website is set up and you have all these different parts of different sites,
Mhm.
does it always come up like this on if you Google it in?
Yeah. Yeah. In most cases. Yep.
Okay.
You can, in most cases, right? There's a little more stuff that goes involved, but for the most part, yes. And then, so now let's go back to the original task, which is go directly to Tea Time Magazine without Googling for it first. How would you do that? Now that
Without
you know,
Googling?
without Googling for it, because you
Oh, up at
know
the top because now I
the
know the
URL,
address.
you know the address, right? You know the URL, and the URL is just the address, just a different word for address, right? But URL is what people might say. Now, before you hit enter, it's okay. Why did that not
Sorry.
work? It's okay. It's fine. We're going to go slow. Why did that not work?
I honestly don't know. Let me try to see.
So before you do that,
Yeah.
because you want to sort of think it through. There's another skill that we're going to start practicing, which is before we do something, we're going to think, okay, here's what should happen, and then we're going to take the action, and we're going to see what happened, right? So
Okay.
that's that feedback is going to help us learn these skills. So in this case, what did you type in to the browser window into that little address bar? What did you type in?
www.teatimemagazine.com.
Okay, now read it. Now, how do you know that? How do you know you typed that in? Are you just remembering that, or did you pick it up somewhere on this page?
Oh, I see. I typed it in wrong, didn't I?
How did you type it in wrong?
Because at the top is a space
Because there's
on the Google.
so highlight where you're looking just to help other people as well, because you're kind of highlighting that thing. So this, right? So
Yeah.
this you Googled www.teatime magazine.com because you put a space in there.
Okay, so you have to
Okay.
make sure it's correct
Because
completely.
in other words, you can't change the address.
Right.
Right.
I get it.
If my, because you changed the address here. So if my address is 123 Main Street and you decide to spell 123 Main, Mane, because it sounded the same to you, it would be a different Main Street. Right.
Got it.
And so you can't just change address. The address is www.teatimemagazine.com. And we know that because you can see it listed in the Google search results. Right. So now you know what it is. So how would we go to teatimemagazine.com directly without Googling it first?
Without Googling it?
Because you know the address. So how would you go there directly?
Oh. I got to make sure I got it right this time.
And then don't hit enter yet.
Okay.
Now, before we hit enter, right? Think to yourself, okay, what should happen once you hit enter? What do you expect is going to happen?
It should go right to Tea Time Magazine.
Okay. And what part of the site?
The main page.
Which is called?
Oh. The main page.
The main page is not an option. None of the website parts we talked about. I want to make sure you start taking notes because you clearly aren't. TeaTimeMagazine.com.
I'm so busy listening.
Right. But you're going to take notes because it's okay. This is practice, right? This is how we do it. So
okay, so teatimemagazine.com, and it's going to take
what
me
are the different
to
parts of the website that exist?
Oh, we have sales. We have
Nope. Well, you have different parts of the pages. You got a blog page. You might have
Right.
people offer stuff, right? Sales sections, whatever. And then what's the main part called?
Tea Time Magazine. It's just got everything on it.
I
So
feel
it's the front. It's the website.
I feel so defeated right now. Okay. So it is
I'm sorry.
it is the what is the default page of a website called? And this is important that we're focusing on this, because if you just make up what you're going to call things, you're not going to be able to communicate with the rest of us on the internet. Because when I say, hey, I need you to go to this part of the website, which I'm not going to give you, I'm going to make you come up with a name, and you have to know what I'm talking about. And if you just call it something different to me, I won't know what you're talking about, because that's not what it's called. So what is the default page of a website when it first loads up? What's it called? What was my page called when you first loaded up? I said, this is the what? when I went to measuremarketing.io? Starts with H.
The home page.
The home page is where we're about to go. So what should happen, right? That's okay.
Okay, so I just have to remember that the name of it is called the home page, not the front page.
Because I'm never going to tell you, go to the front page of my site or go to the main page of my site, because you're going to be like, what's the main page? The main page for me might be the product pages, because that's my main concern. But if I say go to the home page, you know for a fact it's the default page when I go to the browser. It's
okay. So I am going to the home page.
You're going to the home page of teatimemagazine.com.
Right.
Now, a little pro tip: for www, it's something they call a subdomain, right? That little www dot. You technically don't have to have that typed in. The browsers will assume that. So if you saw in my case, I just typed in measurementmarketing.io.
Right.
It technically is going to www.measurementmarketing.io, but the subdomain of www just is the main subdomain that is used for the World Wide Web. That's what it stands for, World Wide Web.
Okay.
And it is the default that everybody uses. And so if there isn't something else typed in there, Google will know you mean put www in front of it. So if you ever see me type in a website and I don't type in www, Google's automatically putting that part in just to get me to the right spot. Because that's
okay. So I could just put it teatimemagazine.com.
Could do it's the exact same place. Right?
Okay.
Both will take you to www. Now, some sites will show you www, right? And some sites won't, but they both have it. Just matter if they show it to you or not, but they both have it. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit enter, and we're going to go to what part of the site?
The home page.
Exactly. So we should see the home page load up. Yay. Okay. Now we're on a home page.
Uh-huh.
What is the URL of this home page?
I'm not seeing a URL except it says teatimemagazine.com.
Which is in fact the URL.
Okay. So that is also the address, which is the URL, right?
The URL is always right. Nobody will ever, they mostly will say, here's the URL. People won't say like, here's the address.
So it's just a fancy name for address.
Yes, exactly right. It's what it's called on the internet, in the world of internet, right? Where all of the world is, it's called a URL. Exactly. So when you say, they say, hey, I need you to go to this part of the site or this site, you say, cool, what's the URL? And then they will give you the URL, which is just an address, right? But you won't say address or things like that. You'll say URL, because that's what people talk about. And then people give it to you. They'll say, oh, here's the URL, or here's the URL link, or here's the link to the URL, or whatever. But that's what it is. It's just an address. But the proper naming, right? Because it's important to learn the language of it so you can communicate with everybody. URL is what this is. Is this, based on what we see here, currently a safe site to browse? Why or why not?
Yes, because it's got a lock on it.
Show us that.
Right up there.
Right. Exactly right. Now, so now when you click in, right? So you see that little lock, which is good. Now, when you click into the URL, so let's go ahead and click into it. Yep. And then click again.
What do you mean click in? Just
double click.
Oh.
There you go. See that? Now that's the full URL. So you're not seeing what they would call the pretty URL, just the shortened URL that makes it look good. You're seeing the entire thing. HTTPS, which means it's secure. Then it's going to www.teatimemagazine.com. That's the full URL of what part of the site?
Of the homepage.
Exactly right. Which is their default page. This is the page they want you to see first. Okay. Now, let's go into what are the different parts of the site. Just pick one.
Well, you have the home page, but then you have the pages are broken down. So the way I visualize this is, while this is a magazine, I visualize it as the home page is the front page, and then Infusions is part of the magazine. That's how I'm visualizing it now.
So we'll go through that just a little bit. So these are just different categories, right? Different places on the pages. How do I know they're categories?
Because of what it says on the top of the home page there.
Where does it show?
Home Infusions right here.
How do I know to call them categories? Because I'm using a technical term.
Oh, you are? Okay. How do you know to call them categories? Just because of the
Click on
way
one.
it's set up at the
Click.
top.
Click on one of those.
Okay, why isn't it going? Oh, it is.
Takes a little time sometimes. Okay. As long as you see that thing spinning in the tab, it's working, right?
Okay.
Now, so what is the URL?
Oh, wow. teatimemagazine.com/category/recipe/.
Right. So this is a recipe, right, which is a category of Tea Time Magazine. So they said there's a whole category section that we have. One of those categories is recipes. Now, how did I know it was called a category?
Because it says so at the top. teatime.com/category.
How did I know that before you clicked on it?
I just know it because of the way it's set up on the website.
To be fair, you didn't know it because you didn't know it was called category.
Well, I didn't know it was called category, but
right.
I just know that those are the things I look for.
Right. So now hover over infusions.
Okay.
Okay. Infusions is a category. Hover over inside Tea Time.
Right there.
That's also a category. And that's
going to has subcategories.
And so hover over. So if you hover over that, that's going to go to About Us -2. That's going to be the URL. It's going to say About Us -2. Go ahead and click on it. And see how it's spinning? Browser spinning. It says category About Us -2. See that?
Okay.
So I'm sort of predicting your future here. So I know exactly where you're about to go. How do I know that?
Because
so when you hover over any link, look in the lower left-hand corner of your browser. All browsers do this.
Oh, at the bottom.
There you go. So this is a part of the browser whenever you're on a website where when you hover over it, it's telling you, here's where you are about to go.
Okay.
So now you know, okay, is this the right thing? Is this going on? The other thing it will do, and you can see sometimes it'll do this, it will tell you what it's doing, what the browser's doing. So if it's waiting for something or if it's trying to load, it'll tell you things like that. So now just click anywhere that's going to the site, but watch the lower left-hand corner of the browser and you'll see what I mean. So we're going to click there. So we know we're going to go to table settings, right?
Yes.
Table settings. So click on it and look at that lower left-hand corner once you click. See that? So it's waiting for this stuff. So it's grabbing this thing. Again, don't worry what these things are. Just it was showing you that it's waiting. Now it's waiting for some other things. This is how you know it's working. Things are going on. Because so that way, that's how you know sometimes if a site gets stuck. Because sometimes a site loads and it doesn't load properly or whatever. And that if that thing isn't spinning, so if that tab isn't spinning, which right now it's not, right? And if there's nothing in the bottom, then it's done. Right? Especially the spinning part. That's what matters the most. If that tab isn't spinning anymore, and you remember, what do I mean by spinning? Just to make sure.
Turning.
Yeah, but what part would spin? Where's the little spinning happening?
I usually see it at the top.
Right. So point that out.
Right up in here.
Exactly right. So that little icon that they have, that's their little logo, would spin around. Yep. So click on someplace. Let's go to the store. And before you click on store, where are we going to go? What's the URL?
Down at the bottom, teatimemagazine.com. Oh, I didn't click on it.
Nope, that's okay. Something on the site loaded and it was telling you what was going on, but now it's back.
Oh, /shop/.
Right. So click on that. Now you're going to go to that page. That's what's that's what will now show in the address bar. So
and there's the spinning
URL. There's the spinning. So it's still loading. Now it's done because the spinning is stopped and we don't see anything else. And of course, now they're trying to get you to do an email, and most pop-ups, it's what they call pop-up.
Which is really annoying.
They can be. Yep. But that's the pop-up. And from here, you can start to browse and buy and everything else. And technically, this would be a site that would be okay to buy from, at least from a technical perspective. Why? Why do we know?
Because it has the lock on it and tells you it's very secure.
If that lock was not there, it would be a problem. So we're going to try to break their lock a little bit here. So go into the URL. I'm going to try to turn off their lock. We're going to do a little experiment. So go into the URL and you're going to double click. And then take out that S that's next to the P. So it just is HTTP. And we're going to see, remember how my site automatically just redirected to the secure when I couldn't break it?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see if this one does that. So now we're about to go to the unsecure version of their site, right? So now what they should be doing is redirecting it back to the secure version, but let's see. Go ahead and hit enter. And they did, which is exactly
they did.
Right.
Yep.
How do you know that? Besides
because of the lock.
How do you double check that?
How do I double check that?
How do you double check it? Yeah. I mean,
click on it twice.
Yep. And we know it's HTTPS, right? Because if you move your cursor just for everybody else to see that, because you're at,
sorry,
there it is. So HTTPS, perfect. So that's how we know this is a secure version of the site. This is what websites should be doing, right? There are times where there won't be a redirect. That's what they call a redirect. That's what that's called. I'm using some technical jargon, but it's called a redirect. If I try to go to one part of the site, I will redirect you to the other part of the site. So in this case, we tried to go to the insecure part, right? The HTTP pages, which exist, but they are being told no, redirect to our secure versions instead. So I can't get to the insecure versions, which is exactly right. The reason that's important is sometimes somebody will share a link with you and they won't share the secure version of it. And so then you start buying stuff on the internet, not realizing you were on an insecure site because it wasn't anyone's fault. They just grabbed the wrong link or something. So you always need to make sure those locks are there. How would you put a lock there if there wasn't one?
If there wasn't the HTTPS?
Yeah.
If there wasn't an S?
Yes.
Would I add an S?
You would just add an S. That's exactly right. You try to add the S. Now, two things will happen is it will either look like a regular lock or it'll be red. And if it's red, it's telling you there is no HTTPS version. So just because you put S in there doesn't mean it's safe. And it will be obviously
okay, so the red is going to be what? The lettering, or it's just going to be red where the S is?
Well, let's go find one. Let's go to let's look for, and this is what we're going to use Google for. Let's look for T-blogs.
Okay.
Just T-blogs is all I want to look for in Google. How would I do that?
In Google?
I'm going to go Google for T-blogs, and let's do it in this tab. How would I do that?
Oh, in that tab.
Yeah.
So go back to that one?
Yep.
All right.
Okay. And how would I Google for T-blogs?
Well, I would do this. Back it out.
Okay.
And then I would do T-blogs, right?
Yep.
That's what you said?
It's what I said.
Enter.
That's exactly right. Okay. So now we've got T-blogs to follow. Let's go down to whatever that first link is. We'll click on their link.
This one right here?
Yep. It's the link, right? You want to click on the link, but yeah, let's go to that site.
So I have to go down here?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we're there. Is this a secure site?
Yes.
Okay, this one's probably going to be, let's try to break it. Let's just see. How would you try to see it and test if there's a non-secure version?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And then what do? And you can just hit enter when you do that. So see how it redirected back, right? This one looked like it was probably going to do that. So let's go back. I want to find just a regular WordPress blog we're going to look for, and then we'll get out. So how do we go back to Google? Exactly right. Navigation. You have to do it a couple of times because I typed in the domain name. There you go. So now we're going to scroll down, look for some other.
I did the wrong one. Wait a minute.
How do you go back?
I'll go get that exactly again.
Right. Yep. So let's scroll down and look for something else.
Oh.
Let's go to thappiness.com.
Okay.
Okay. Is this a secure site?
No, it says not secure.
Right. So you will
That's
see that.
Interesting.
Now, how would you do the opposite? Let's see if there is a secure version. How would you do that?
Oh, let's see. Wait. Well, that doesn't, so I have to put the HTTPS?
Right. So how do you do that?
There.
Don't even worry about that. You're in the wrong area. Close out of this. Right. So how would you put, how do you, because I can't even see the HTTPS right now. So how do you get
No.
that stuff to show up?
Oh yeah, that's right. I punch it twice.
There you go. So now it says www dot, right?
Okay.
See that? You don't see HTTP here at all? Because it's just insecure. It's kind of the default one. So now what you would do is just type in HTTPS in the well, you got to make sure.
Oh, in the wrong spot.
Right. Wrong spot. So
hit
escape. Hit escape. The escape key.
Escape.
Or just click out of this.
Okay.
Just click out of it. No big deal. Okay. So it just brought you back to the start. So you weren't accidentally messing something up.
Okay.
Now hit your arrow key to the left.
This one?
Nope. In your keyboard. Keyboard left arrow.
Okay.
Okay. Now keep hitting it to get to the end. We're just going to practice some navigation stuff. And this is part of the reason. So if you're thinking like, why are we doing this HTTP? It's to get you used to using.
Yeah, this, I didn't know it did that.
So
okay.
now type in HTTP://
HTTP:// /
Right. So before you hit enter, is this a secure page or an insecure page that you would be going to? And how do you know?
It's not secure because there's no S on it.
Right. So we want to go to the secure version of this page.
Right.
Right. And so how would we make it a secure version?
To make an S right there.
Right. Which you can also use your keyboard arrow keys to navigate around. It'll just be faster for you.
My keyboard arrow keys?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
left arrow. There you go.
Oh, there it goes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So now this should go to a secure. This is what should happen. Doesn't mean it will, but it's what should happen is it should go to the secure version of this page.
Because I already put the S in, but it's not doing it.
Well, you didn't hit enter yet, but that's okay.
Oh.
This is what should happen is it should go there. Now, two things will happen. One, it'll go there. And how do we know it worked? How do we know it worked, that it's secure?
If there's a lock on it.
You would see a lock on it. Right. So let's go see if that happens. Because the other thing that can happen is that it tries to go there, but it doesn't work. See that?
Oh, okay.
So that's just an error where they're saying, hey, I tried to go to the secure version. There is no secure version because this site doesn't have that set up. This is a small site. This is a tiny site. Right? They don't have all that stuff set up yet. It's not bad. It's not bad to use this site. So let's go back, hit the back button, and we'll come back to that site again. So this site is safe to browse. It is not safe to purchase from. Okay. And we know that because it says not secure. And we also know there is no HTTPS version because we tried to pop that in. So now you're getting used to using a browser in the address bar and navigating through that because you're gonna have to get comfortable with doing that. Use your arrow keys. You don't have to put, get the mouse in there the first time maybe, but you don't have to use the mouse for everything. It's just gonna take too long. So get used to using your arrow keys and understanding, okay, here's the HTTP version, here's the HTTPS version, here's how I can test different things. You're starting to get an understanding of what the browser is telling you now by that lock or saying not secure or what that stuff even means on all that.
Okay, my only thing is like you're, and I just want to clarify this, not only for myself, but for others. When you're suggesting that I use this up and down and over, saying
what are you talking about? Up and down and over thing?
Up and down and then left or right.
You're talking about arrow keys.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. So we're talking about the arrow keys.
Yeah.
If I arrow key doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to mess everything on my computer, correct?
If you use arrow keys, are you going to mess anything up on your computer?
If I'm up here.
Where? I can remember. I can't see where you are. Okay, there you go. Yep.
All right. And I go like that. That gave me that. If I go back again, it's not doing anything then, right? It's just moving the.
You're literally just moving the cursor. Exactly right. You're not inserting anything. You're not changing anything. It's the position of the cursor.
So I don't have to be afraid that I'm going to crash something in my computer or.
But with the arrow keys, no. The arrow keys are just like location keys, like move the thing up, down, left, right. That's all.
Okay.
That's all they're really
So I
for.
won't have to panic about that. Okay,
no,
good.
not at all. Not at all. Yep. Good question. All right. So now this kind of is a good place to wrap it up because I wanted to kind of get a little bit more familiar with the different parts of a browser. I think what most people do, I know you did for a long time, is going to Google to go find websites. but you don't have to do that anymore. And the reason, like if you were going to T Magazine, that Tea Time Magazine, let's go ahead and go back to that. Go back to Tea Time Magazine. How would you do that? Type it, because you know the web address, right?
Right.
So how would you get there?
Gotta get this thing so that it.
I'm gonna give you another pro tip.
All right.
So right click.
Right click. Oh, I don't have my mouse.
Okay. I'm gonna give you a keyboard shortcut. We're gonna practice some of this stuff. So
that'll be good.
You'll get used to this. So control, because you are in the URL, right? You don't have to highlight anything yet. But you're in the URL, the address bar. That's where you are. Right. We know that because that's where the cursor is blinking right now.
Okay.
Control A. A stands for all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's selected everything.
Oh, look at that.
Now hit your backspace. You will use Control A a lot. So now everything's gone. It's blanked out. Now type in where you want to go. Which is in this case that Tea Time Magazine.
But I'm going to use a www address where I don't have to. Go.
Now stop. See what's showing up there?
Yeah.
Is that where you want to go? Those different options. See the different options it's giving you?
Yeah. So I can go here.
Yeah.
That's where I want to go.
You can just click there. Because what's happened is because you went there, the browser remembered that you went to that address now. So it's pre-filling stuff for you.
Okay.
Now you can just type in T, and then Tea Time Magazine will probably pop up, unless you start going to like teatimebettySue.com or whatever the other things are.
Wow, that's interesting.
That site will start popping up. The only reason it started doing that is because you went directly to it. If you keep Googling for stuff, because that's kind of a question of why I just want to Google stuff because it gets me there. But then the browsers can't do this thing where they're auto-filling and helping you get to where you want to go, because they don't ever know you went directly there, because to them you didn't. You went in through Google and Google sent you there. So they don't remember that stuff. But when you typed it in is why now you don't have to type in teatimemagazine.com a million times. You just type in T and it pops it up because it knew, oh, you're probably looking for this one. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So with that, we'll go ahead and bring this one to a close. What we will come to is probably in next week, we'll talk more about the website and how to actually create a website, right? So this is the part of it where just in building your own skills, it's kind of the hardest part about it is once you figure out the lay of the land, which is like, okay, it's like we're looking at somebody else's site. We're looking at a window into their site. This information is stored on a computer that they control somewhere, right? And they are just leasing space on probably somebody else's computer. That's all that's happening here. So, and the address for that space is currently teatimemagazine.com, right? Which is their, what page is showing right now?
That is their homepage.
Exactly right. So what we're going to do next week is we are going to start to carve out your own little piece of the internet. So you're going to create a domain name and you're going to, own that domain name. And then we're going to take a little piece of somebody else's computer on the internet. We're going to lease a space out on their computer. And that's where we're going to put your website. And we're going to use something called WordPress to build your website. And you have already seen WordPress pages.
Yes.
As going through the fact that New York, that one that was the insecure version, that was a WordPress site that was made with WordPress.
Okay.
And they were doing blogs and everything else. And so we're going to build a site using WordPress, and that's going to help give you skills, because in the wide world of the internet, right, we need to have the ability to communicate, which means using the right terms. We need to know where all the bits and pieces are, which is why it's important to learn a browser and start using the address bar and not Googling for everything and typing in stuff, but you use the address bar and get used to what all that means and the different parts of the domain, right? And the URL and everything. And then we will, move into actually creating that, which will level it up even more, because once you put the information there, you go, okay, now I'm really starting to get it. Does that make sense? Okay. One last thing. Click on any of the links on here to go to some other part of their site. Doesn't matter where. Some other part of their site, though. One of the category pages. It doesn't
categories.
Click anywhere. Yep.
Okay.
So we're going to go to this page. So here's a question I have for you.
Okay.
What is the domain name and what is the URL?
The domain name is Tea Time. And the URL is www.teatimemagazine.com. teatimemagazine.com.
Okay. So so let's try it again. So we're
All
going to
right.
looking at your browser.
I'm looking at my browser. Okay.
Where is the URL?
The URL is
Yes.
right up here.
Okay. So what is the URL?
Oh, I'm looking at teatimemagazine.com/category/table settings/
So technically table dash settings. It's important that you say things like that.
Okay.
Table settings, it would be assumed one word, which is not.
Okay.
It's table dash settings. So it's teatimemagazine.com/category/table dash settings.
Okay.
Technically, right? So that's the URL. What's the domain name?
Tea Time Magazine.
What's the domain name? That's how you know you got it wrong.
teatimemagazine.com.
.com. Why is it .com? Why do we have to say the .com?
That's the address.
Because that's the full address. The domain name is that main part, right? The URL is the whole thing. So teatimemagazine.com/category/table-settings is the URL.
Okay. So
teatimemagazine.com is the domain. Every URL has a domain, right? But the domain is not always the URL. Now go back to their homepage. How do you do that? In most cases, pro tip, you just click on the company's logo and it'll take you there. So click on Tea Time.
Right here?
Yeah. In most cases, those will always take you back to the homepage.
Huh.
So this is the homepage. What is the domain name?
teatimemagazine.com.
What is the URL?
There isn't one. It's teatimemagazine.com.
Always a URL, right? In this case, the homepage, it's the same. The domain name happens to be the URL. Now click on some other part of the site.
Now what? Oh, down at the bottom?
Click. Well, what's that URL that you're about to go to?
HTTPS semicolon / /
So let's, this is good practice. So it's HTTPS:// not a semicolon, it's a colon.
Okay. HTTPS : / but does it matter whether it's a forward or backward slash? I guess it doesn't.
No.
Okay. www.teatimemagazine.com/category/recipes/
Exactly. So now click on that. And you don't have to say the trailing, what they call a trailing slash, the last slash. You don't have to say that. It's just assumed.
Okay.
So in this case, now, what is the domain name?
teatimemagazine.com/category/recipes/
What is the URL?
Oh, that's the URL.
So what is the domain name?
teatimemagazine.com. It's in the dark.
It's in the dark. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's darker printing.
Okay. So now go to some other site. Let's go to Google. Go Google something.
Just go Google
tea recipes or tea whatever.
Oh.
Tea blog, anything, doesn't really matter.
Okay.
So Google it. So go ahead and Google. Yep. And now, what is the domain name?
Google.com.
What is the URL?
Google.com/search ?
Right.
Q,
right.
you
don't
the whole long
right.
thing.
All that other stuff. But Google.com/search is the URL, and then with all the parameters.
Right.
So that's the difference between the domain name and the URL. The URL is the very specific spot on the site that you need it to go.
Okay.
Right? The domain name is the central hub.
Okay.
That make it up.
Okay.
Sometimes, like in the case of a homepage, like if you just go to google.com, let's just type in google.com.
Okay.
And then hit enter. What should happen? What part of the site will load up for us?
I would think the front page or the home page.
The home page, exactly right. There's no such thing called a front page. It's the home
right.
page. So front pages and main pages do not exist. So it's the home page.
Home page.
So this is the google.com homepage.
Homepage.
What's the URL?
Google.com.
What's the domain name?
The domain name is google.com.
Right. And what's the URL?
It's just showing google.com.
which is the URL, right? That's what's showing.
Okay.
Right. So remember the home page, the domain name, the URL are the same because it's the home page. It's your main homepage. Right?
Okay. Okay.
Now, if we go to a different part, like for example, let's go to the Google Store, which is in the upper left-hand corner. It says Store. Because they have other parts of their website too. All we're doing is looking at Google. There's no difference between Google and every other website in the planet. They all operate the same way. They just have more stuff because they're a larger company. So now we're on what's the URL?
store.google.com/US/??
And these are anything you see are parameters, right?
Right.
So anything when it starts with a question mark, it's like then you need to say parameters or whatever. But otherwise, it's store.google.com/US. It's the US version of their store.
Okay.
We're just looking at their stuff that they stored on their computers. This is our window into their computer right now, so we can interact with the stuff that they have.
Okay.
Right? What's the domain name?
Google.com.
Exactly, but it's not store.google.com, right? So the domain names are always that kind of the main part, and then what they call the top level domain, which is the .com, .net, .io, etc. Make sense?
Yep.
All right.
Yep. That makes sense.
Cool. Well, with that, let's go ahead and we'll wrap this one up. And then next week, we're going to walk through and you're going to, so think about a name that you want for a website. We're going to buy that name, buy that domain, right? So we own that domain. And then we're going to, what they call host that domain on somebody else's computer. We're going to lease a little spot and then they're going to give us an address and we're going to hook all the dots together so that when we type in your domain name, it will go to your website and it'll be really ugly in the beginning. And that's okay. Doesn't matter. It's just getting it up and running. And then we will start learning WordPress skills to actually build a site. Now we're going to obviously do this for your site and play around with it. But the real reason we're doing this is to get you to build skills so you can help other people build theirs, right? That gives you something marketable so that you can go out and start saying, hey, I can help you build blog posts or proofread or whatever the things are that you want to get into, because now you're a little more confident moving things around.
Right.
Okay. So what was top 3 things you learned?
I learned the difference between a URL and a domain name.
Which is what? What's the difference?
The domain name is the home page and the URL basically is telling you the different pages on it.
Okay. I'll give you that.
Okay.
Give you partial. That's pretty good. Yep.
Okay.
What else?
I learned there's shortcuts on here.
Such as
Control A, enter, which takes me.
A does what? It's not Control A, enter. It's just Control A. What did you just do there? What does Control A do? See how everything's blue?
Yeah, Control A.
Why did it do that? What's Control
A? Alt is what I thought it was, but it's not.
Alt? No, it's not. So Control A, what does A stand for? All.
All. Okay.
All. You selected all. That's what Control A does. It selects everything.
Okay.
So what you were actively on this page and it selected everything on this page.
Okay. So if I just go, sugar.
Go to where you want to go.
Right there.
Well, and you double clicked it, which also is a way to shortcut select all, but just click once. Okay. Now select it all.
Because my little thing is up there. What is that called?
Cursor.
That's it.
That's the cursor. So now, because that's where the cursor was, that's where you were actively, that's the part of the browser where you were active. It selected everything in that part of the browser.
Okay.
That's why it's blue there. And that's how you know that's the stuff. Now, if you hit backspace, it'll delete it all, but it only delete that part of it. It gets rid of that, right? It's just a way to clear it out. But you wouldn't be able to do that on our main site. This is just kind of an address bar thing where you can do that. But it's a very fast way to clear out what's there is you click in it once, Control A to select all, hit backspace, deletes it all. Now you can type in whatever you want. Okay. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I'm going to practice that.
Cool. All right. Third thing. What's the other thing that you learned? So we had shortcuts, which was one, like Control A.
Oh, another thing I learned was how to look down at the bottom.
Yes.
And that it will show me how it takes me to those different pages or different URLs.
So for example, if we hover over Pixelbook, the word Pixelbook here.
Pixelbook.
Right next to Stadia, kind of the top navigation to the right.
Okay.
Okay. So, and you're going to have to click into this because you're not technically in that. You're still in the address bar. How do I know you're in the address bar still?
Because of where my cursor is.
Correct. So just tab out. So you can hit tab and that'll
can hit
navigate out of that. See that?
Okay. So do I do tab again to get rid of the blue?
You can just, hit or just do me a favor and refresh this. This will be the fastest way for you to do it. Just refresh.
All
Whenever
right.
you do something where you're like, I just screwed
I do
something
know
up.
that
I don't know
one.
how I got here. Just hit refresh. It brings it
Okay.
back up. Okay. So now let's try to hover over Pixelbook and see if this does this for us.
I'm on.
So Google's is a little different. So I wasn't sure it was going to or not. But it's not going to, it's not going to show it. So it doesn't mean it has to, right? But most sites, they will show. Hover over the learn more button, see if that does it. Some of these sites, it depends what they build it with. Yeah, there you go. That's showing.
Okay, down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Right.
So some parts may, some parts might. Don't, it's, not overly important, but it does let you know where you're about to go to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and we know the page that you're about to go to, right, which is that Chromecast Google TV thing, which by the way is underscore. So you would read that as Chromecast underscore Google underscore TV. That's how you would say that. But is that the page that you would go to? Is that a secure page or is it not a secure page? How do you know?
It's secure because it has the S at the H.
Exactly right. Because it has HTTPS. Yep. So
right,
you know it's a secure page that you're going to. And if you saw that it was
that's
HTTP,
another thing I've learned.
You'd be linking to an insecure page. Exactly. Right. All right. Perfect. Well, let's call this one done. I think kind of learned a lot. Play around with the address bar, typing stuff directly in, trying to remember what the websites are to go directly there so you don't have to Google everything over time. Change things, the HTTP, just to play around with that and see what it looks like. Remember, never, ever, ever buy anything on the internet that does not have a lock. It has to have that HTTP, it has to be secure. If you're not sure, it's probably not. So just ask somebody for some help and you can confirm that. And like I said, when in doubt, you can always just call the company and then do it over the phone.
Right.
So, all right. With that, we'll bring this one to a close. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for Mom Tackles the Internet. I'm going to officially stop. Actually, I'm going to ask you to stop sharing. See if you can figure that one out. And then we'll officially bring it to a close. So you're going to
all right. And how do I stop sharing?
Under your share screen, you should see a little area.
Share screen. Oh, my little camera here?
Yeah. Well, not your camera because that's your camera, but there should be a little share screen where you can say stop sharing.
Under
your options there.
I don't see a share.
That's all right. Well, I will take it over for you. We will cover that lesson shortly.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and do it on my end. So I will stop the share officially. And then, like I said, we'll get more and more used to this as we go through, but that was good. So I think going through the browser window, getting really experienced with that stuff is super important. And with that, we'll officially bring it to a close. So thanks for joining Mom Tackles the Internet, and I will see you next week. Love you.
Love you. Bye.